Good morning, everybody. Today is Friday, the 22nd of May, and today marks the end of the Phase 1 in the Managed Return to School plan. And because of the success of how the community have managed the coronavirus pandemic in New South Wales, we're able to skip ahead a couple of steps in the Managed Return to School plan, and we're going straight ahead to 5-day week attendance for our students. So what that means is, while from a student's point of view, they're here 5 days a week, and it's certainly great for us to have them back, and it will be equally great for you to have them out of your house. There are quite a few restrictions around how that looks at school to make sure that things stay safe and happy and well. While the risk of transmission of coronavirus between children is fairly low, the impact on the adults can be quite high, and we need to be mindful that not only are we going to have 450 plus students here each day next week, all of our staff will be back. So we're back to around 60 staff, and there are all the parents, of course, that are involved in having 450 kids here at school. So part of the restrictions that will apply to school will be that non-essential visitors aren't permitted on the school grounds. So that includes visiting performances, includes parents as well. We have to make sure that we are limiting those adult numbers, and there's a lot of restrictions for us as teachers about how we use our staff rooms and some of the communal areas that we have for adults here at school. We're also not going to be able to have excursions or incursions during this period. There's restrictions on sporting activities that we can do both at a local level and between schools. So PWSA is all on hold at the moment, and we don't know the future of our athletics carnival and some of those things. We're still working through those other issues. We are going to continue with the staggered lunch and recess breaks, because that's a good way of thinning out the crowd just a little bit for us, both in managing students' numbers, but also staff numbers in the staff room and the communal adult areas here. We'll continue to have enhanced cleaning procedures, which is happening across the whole state, of course, and the hand washing routines that we've introduced will continue for the foreseeable future until we get some other advice. But the other big things, students will need to bring their own bottle of water. I have been giving out water to students this week. The reason for that is we're trying to discourage the use of the bubblers, which is really important for us. And of course, the other thing is we need to make sure we're following health advice. And if students are unwell, they need to stay at home. However, they do need to be here 5 days a week, because learning will be face-to-face. There'll be no more remote learning model at any government school in New South Wales. If they are unwell or they fall into one of the extreme risk categories, they have immune issues, etc., and that's supported by the doctor, of course, they would be exempt from school, as would our staff and would anyone else in the workplace. So the big thing for us is to work out how we're going to get people into school and to get people out of school. Arriving at school is probably going to be a little bit easier than exiting, and to put it in perspective, the last fortnight we've had somewhere between 111 and 133 students here on any given day. Today being Friday, we have 31 students here. But on Monday, I expect we'll have over 450. So the scale of logistics is really huge. And from those 450 students, we will have several hundred parents in the community, and add into that 63 staff. It's a lot of people in one space. So the morning will look very much like it has so far. So basically the preschoolers, of which there'll be 20, not 7, so then more preschoolers obviously each day, they'll fall back into their regular 2-day, 3-day a week cycle depending upon which class they're in. So they'll be attending on their regular K-Red or K-Blue days. Those students will enter via the Copeland Road gate with their parents, and they will go up to the courtyard in front of the preschool, where the preschool staff will assist with the transition and get the kids into class, and then parents can leave back through the Copeland Road gate just as they have been. If those parents have any older students, the older students will peel off at the corner of the canteen and head off to classes if it's a wet weather day, because that's how we'll still be starting our day, just to reduce a bit of pressure on the playground and on our staffing arrangements. Students who are in the support class, they'll enter school in a variety of ways, and it's appropriate that we make some accommodations for those students dependent upon their particular needs. So some of those students will arrive by bus, and they'll be collected as part of our normal morning routine by the teachers, and off they'll go to the support classes. Others will enter independently, as is appropriate, and there'll be a small number, particularly the youngest students, who will ask the parents to assist us in getting them up to class and getting them settled, so that their needs are a little bit different to the rest of our school. As for the other students between Kinder and Year 6, as they have over the last fortnight, they'll enter either through the Mariana Gate, Copeland or Bougainville. All gates will have staff on them to escort them through, and where appropriate, we'll ask some of the older students to help us escort the younger ones up to class and to get in and settled for the day. But again, we are talking about 450 students arriving, not just the 110 to 120 we've had recently. So the more efficient the kiss and drop is, the better, because obviously we can't have big groups of parents gathered at the gates. That's not going to make the social distancing easy to manage from a parental point of view or from a school point of view. So that will get us off and going for the morning. We'll then close the gates as we have been, and we'll get on with our school day from normal. Breakfast club will run as it has traditionally. So if students need toast or some cereal, they can go to breakfast club and we'll cater for them, and they'll go to class before the bell, just like a regular school day. The afternoon is a little bit trickier though. So at the moment we've been exiting through really two gates, just through Copeland and Bougainville, with the unaccompanied infants going out through Mariana. But that won't work when we've got 450 students. And one of the big challenges is we need to make sure that we don't have a great big lineup of parents along any of those gates. If we can help it, we can spread that out, because part of our responsibility as a school is to come up with some strategies that will help maintain social distancing in the community, not just within the school grounds, but also on the outside of the school grounds. So we've had a bit of a look at the best ways to do that, and we do need to separate those kids. We do need to make sure that I've not got all the teachers involved in the same duties at the same time. So the afternoon arrangement will be for preschool, we'll exit just the way they have over the last couple of weeks. The preschool students will be waiting in the preschool. On the preschool courtyard will be the siblings of the preschool students. The parents of the preschoolers will enter via Copeland, go up to the courtyard, and we will unite those families into a little group, and then they will leave straight through the Copeland Road gate and off they'll go. The support unit students will primarily leave via the bus, and they'll be dropped off at the bus as normal, and then they will also leave through the Copeland Road gate, and that's really been the plan over the last couple of weeks. There may be some students that for their particular needs we'll make particular arrangements for, and we'll do that. As for the rest of the school, they'll be leaving the gates based on which house they are in, and what that allows us to do is to make sure that the students are leaving in family groups. Now, I do recognise that there are some groups of families that work together at times to help get students home, and there are some groups which are probably more extended family groups, which may have cousins or second cousins or informal relationships, and that's not reflected in the house allocation. And we've had a bit of a look over that to try to work out how many students are impacted, and this is one of those areas where there has to be some decisions made, I suppose, that suit most people, and we need to make sure that we're catering for most of our 450 students. So we are sticking within those house groups, and we're assigning each gate a particular colour. So how that will work is, number one, students that are in kindergarten, year 1 or year 2, and have no preschool siblings or siblings in year 3-6 will continue to leave the Mariana Street gate exclusively, just as they have over the last fortnight. And we will have teachers that will be exiting those students and handing them over to parents directly. If everybody's here, that will be about 75 students will exit in that way through that gate, which is a fair number. So of course we need to make sure that our parents are lined up down the gate, so away from the car park, lined up at the Mariana pedestrian gate down towards Copeland Road. We'll then have the Warrigal students, so they're the red students. They'll muster together in the yard, and then they're going to exit through the Copeland Road gate, and there'll be a number of students, obviously in a great big long line. Around about 100 students will be involved. there'll be 3 or 4 teachers that will walk them in a great big long line up to the Copeland Road gate, and they will exit through there. So we would ask that only the parents of the Warragul students are around that gate, because otherwise, again, it will be very difficult for us to manage the social distancing from a parental point of view. Although, of course, we have had some fantastic support from our community, and I do thank you for that. So through that gate at Copeland will be Warragul, which is the red group. You should know which group your child is in. That was in the communication that was sent out as we moved into phase 1. And by now, we're fairly expert at knowing which group they're all in. If the kids aren't sure, we have some strategies in place that will get them in the right spot at the right time to make sure that everyone's safe and well. The students who are in Boru class or Boru house, which is the green group, they're going to be exiting through the Bougainville Road gate. Now that will be around about 104 students, and again there'll be a great big long line of students. They'll exit in their family groups, and there'll be several teachers involved to make sure that they exit. I'd ask again that everyone lines up on that fence away from the Salvation Hall, so the lines go towards Copeland Road, and the students will go out through that gate, and off they'll go. The really big change for us is what we do with both our Dewby and Coolah students, and we're going to have to exit them together through the car park gate on Mariana. Now that's a gate that we traditionally don't use for students because we try to keep a bit of distance between cars and kids, as you'd imagine. However, there'll be no vehicular traffic between, say, 2 o'clock and 3:15. We won't be using that gate at all for staff purposes. No deliveries will be taken. That gate will be used to exit both the Boru and the Dewby students. Now, it's a wide gate. There'll be lots of teachers involved, but we do anticipate exiting perhaps up to 200 students through that gate, and they'll exit in family groups, just as we're talking about with the other gates. So that's all the Dewby and the Coolah kids. So in other words, yellow and blue sport house out through the Mariana gate. Now that's a different gate. Again, we feel if people line up down towards Copeland Road, the line of parents shouldn't extend past the Mariana pedestrian gate. We think there's enough space there. Not 100% sure, but we think there is. If we follow that routine, it means that we are able to get the kids out of the school grounds safely and maintain our requirements as directed by the New South Wales government. Now, there are a few downsides to the plan which we do recognise. Every model we came up with had some downsides. So this is the model with the fewest downsides. The concerns we have, I suppose, are if it rains, we're all going to get wet. On a regular day, of course, we do get wet as well, but what it means is from a parent's point of view is if you're lined up at the gate, you're outside, you're not under a collar. And I guess umbrellas are going to be required, and we will do our best to manage the kids in the undercover spaces and arrive at the gates just at the last minute on the 2:55 bell, so they're not in the rain as much as possible. And obviously, we don't want you in the rain or the teachers in the rain either. So that will be the first plan, the first downside I can see. The second downside I can see that we're going to need to really work together on is the Mariana Street crossing isn't supervised. Now, I have asked the RMS to consider sending us a casual crossing supervisor to support us on that crossing. However, due to staffing issues, that's really hard for them to do, and they're managing the implications of coronavirus upon their staff levels, just as all other businesses are. So it's unlikely we're going to get a crossing supervisor for that crossing, and there will be a lot of people using it. So we're going to need to really ask that everyone can do that sensibly. We're not going to be able to provide staff to supervise that crossing because of our need of keeping a social distance between our parents and our staff as well, and the need for all hands to be on deck from a staff point of view to manage the exit. The other issue we've got as well is there may be, in fact, some parents who collect students for friends, and those friends may be split up in different houses. We're not able to accommodate for that, and I recognise that as a deficit, and my suggestion is that the total perimeter of our school is around about 200 metres. So whilst it might create some extra walking for both students and for parents. We will, as a staff, support kids whose exit is delayed because of issues like that at those gates. And if it means that a parent has to walk between the gates, that may be in fact what has to happen, or it may be appropriate for the older students particularly that a meeting point at a different location is specified by families. It may be better to meet perhaps on the corner of Copeland or Mariana, or have some other arrangement. Parking traditionally at our schools is a little tight. Of course, there are exactly the same number of cars being parked. It may just mean that instead of having perhaps a 50-metre walk for parents, there's a 100-metre walk because the car might not be able to be in exactly the same spot as you would normally have. The other issue I can see is the exit onto Bougainville. Traditionally, we don't send as many as 100 students through that gate. I would guess on a normal afternoon we send around 50. In this case, we are going to be sending the 100 out, and so there's a bit more traffic going out there. So that would have to be considered from a family point of view. I guess what I need to really ask for everyone is we need to ask for a good degree of cooperation around this. It's not possible for us to make a plan that takes 450 different family arrangements into account. We've had to make some broad judgments that are based on the best needs of the most people. And for those parents who are inconvenienced, I have to offer my apologies, but to understand that there are a lot of things about the managed return to school and what's happening across New South Wales that are inconvenient for a lot of us. We've been really pleased with the way that our community worked with us, and I do thank you for that. But I do ask just for a little bit of recognition and understanding that at a school level, we've worked really hard on doing the best we can for the most people, and we are conscious of the impact upon families, and we have to continue to work with you. But in this case, I'd really ask for some cooperation and to appreciate that the big picture here is exiting 450 kids safely, and the students have to be our number one priority. And from there, we've taken into account after the students, the adults in the world, including the teachers and the community. So that's going to be our plan for next week. We hope that it works well, and we are confident it's the best plan that we can come up with at the moment. As always, we reserve the right to change our plans if needs arise. We do hope that the weather is fine, because rain is going to be a bit of an issue for us. And probably the other thing to remember is that with the way that the school's operating at the moment, late students are fairly challenging for us to manage. So if we can have kids here on time, that would be so much better for us. The canteen will be open again for over-the-counter sales for students. Obviously, from a parent's point of view, because parents are doing a kiss and drop at the gate, they can't do orders over the counter. That would still need to be either sent in with the kids or via the app. But the canteen have advised me that the uptake on the app has been really great over the last few weeks, and I would really encourage that to continue to happen. So for us, it's the last day of phase one. As I said, we do have just over 30 students here today. We're expecting 453 students next week. And don't forget, no matter what inconvenience the plan does cause you, it's probably better than having the kids at home. And from our point of view, we're very, very keen to have our kids back. We want them to be back. We want them to be part of our school, part of our learning. And as teachers and as educators, school isn't the same without the kids, and we'll be very pleased to have them here. So again, for the small inconveniences that will be caused by our departure plan, do please accept my apologies, but understand that all plans have been made with consideration of as many factors as we possibly can achieve. And if you can now start making some of your plans about how you can work in with us, that would be just fantastic. Thanks so much. Enjoy the weekend, and I look forward to catching up with everybody on Monday.